So I was on Maps Twitter the other day, as I do, and scrolling through the timeline, and I'm a big fan of Slightly Biased here, so this video is not drama or trying to kick anything up or whatever. It's just talking shop. Um, and he had tweeted out how kids had a slow start to the season, but let's not pretend they didn't coach a good series against the Suns. And again, this is a talking point that I hear a lot that I don't necessarily agree with, correct? And so I kind of replied, I don't get where this talking point comes from. What exactly did he do to win us a game or two? In my opinion, Luka kind of just backpacked us through the playoffs with some other good individual efforts on defense by, Finney-Smith and Bullock, mainly Bullock, and Brunson as well. I don't get where this talking point comes from and why people are so high on Jason Kidd. And, essentially he linked me this video, which we're going to watch and go over. And I have watched it, and it has some okay points, but it's largely going to talk about Jason Kidd on the defensive end and the things that he did, right? And so it's from a channel that I actually like called Thinking Basketball. They make good basketball videos and whatnot. So we're going to watch it here, and we're going to kind of go over it. I have it on 1.25 speed. And essentially they're kind of go over the things Jason Kidd on the defensive end, which, again, I haven't really broken down the Mavs on a defensive end yet, so this should be a little interesting. But I guess my issues with the video, right, is, first of all, it's a well-edited video. I think the guy knows what he's talking about. It's not like I think some rando made this who's just kind of getting lucky or just kind of spewing things out of his mouth or what have you. But I think they are giving Kidd a little too much credit here in terms of the reasons why they give or think Kidd, again, outcoached the Suns in a way. And I'm not saying even like the Suns coach is necessarily a good coach, right? I know he won Coach of the Year, but again, the Suns had a really good season. They have a good roster. They have a good team, and that's largely why he got it, right? And so the main thing I want to talk about, right, before we get into it is one of the things. There's two things I've said in my other videos that they're going to kind of go over here, which I don't really think is like a good attribution or a good thing to attribute to Kidd. And that is, I've mentioned, I think Reggie Bullock was the unsung hero of the playoffs last year. Brunson and Kidd got a lot of credit. Maxey had a couple games, but Bullock really, in my opinion, especially on the defensive end, was the unsung hero of the playoffs last year. He logged big minutes. He was a workhorse. He was shooting much better than what he is right now, and he was essentially guarding the best player, or we were putting him on whatever player we felt we needed to hound the most, and he did an amazing job, right? So I want to mention that. And in this video, they kind of mention great one-on-one defense, right? Which, again, I mean, I've also stated how defense is energy and position with like a scheme or two thrown in, correct? Defense, there's not, in my opinion, playing basketball, right, there is not a lot of deep thought that goes into defense. It's a lot of hustle, it's a lot of energy, and there's maybe like a scheme or two that you're trying to throw in. Now, much like offense, you have to adjust throughout the game, correct? So that's fair enough, right? And I'm going to get into one of those points about adjustments that Kidd didn't make, but he gets credit in this video for making later on. The other thing, secondly, is they give Kidd credit here for kind of some basic stuff that kind of goes with the last point I said that he should have made earlier, or he should have done earlier, and some other things that are kind of just basic, right? I don't really know how else to put it, not to like act like the people listening are casuals, but if you've kind of played any kind of formal ball or anything, a lot of these things, I guess I don't I don't really see this as like some mastermind of Jason Kidd doing something revolutionary or out of the box thinking or something that, you know, he should get a lot of credit for it. So let's go just get into the video, and we'll see, kind of just go over it.
Doncic led the Dallas Mavericks to a comeback victory over the Suns, and his offensive performance is understandably grabbing a ton of attention. But so much of this series changed on the defensive end after those first 2 games. As we detailed on this channel, the Mavs were completely overwhelmed defensively to start this series, with the Suns ruthlessly attacking Luka in Game 2, involving him in ball screens so they could switch onto Doncic in space and attack his lack of quickness. But in Game 3, things started to change.
I've mentioned this year, Luka's footwork and defense looks exponentially better this year. I've seen him several times in every game move his feet and get in the way of the ball handler, the guy that's trying to attack him off the dribble. And I think Luka's defense has gotten much better, just to kind of reiterate that I don't think he's getting enough credit for that yet. Maybe he'll show up in the playoffs, but we'll see.
Change. Right from the get-go, the Mavs stopped conceding a switch onto Luka and had him show in front of the ball handler briefly and then recover to his man.
Now, this is kind of the thing they're giving Jason Kidd credit for, is essentially having Luka. I keep saying shade in the videos, like when we're talking about the pick and roll and the double team on Luka, they're shading Luka. Okay, hedging's kind of another term that they're using here. Hedging, though, is when you're going to shade or present the switch and then you kind of fall back, right? Again, like, I don't think this is like some big brain move by Jason Kidd. And where I was going with what I was saying a second ago is this should have been an adjustment you make after you see it 3 or 4 times in a game. Does that make sense? It should, you know, you're talking about NBA players, like why it took a whole game of us getting cooked or Luka getting cooked, being left out one-on-one on the wing with Chris Paul or Devin Booker or something, and Kidd doesn't immediately go to like, hey, we're not switching. You know, you're gonna hedge, you're gonna shade a little bit, you're gonna let the guy who's getting picked recover, and then we need to rotate, right? That's simple, basic. I mean, that's junior high school basketball, in my opinion. And so this is where I'm getting to the point of like, Kidd in the moment in games does not adjust well. He is not getting a good feeling for the game. He is not picking up on what's going on. In my opinion, again, being a styles coach, it's like he is a stubborn styles coach, and he keeps thinking his style will win out in the end instead of starting with a style. And again, let's say Luka, his style's pick and roll with Luka essentially on offense. Once that double comes to adjust to your style, you should be able to take advantage of that. There should be another layer. There should be another thing after that we're already ready for, that we've seen 100 times, that we've gone over in practice, that we know that, look, we know Luka can dominate a game, right? And so we're going to run the pick and roll, and eventually if they want to let us get these mismatches with Luka and let us get Luka in spots, etc., you know, eventually they're going to have to adjust to what we're doing. And then once they do that, we're going to attack them this way. The kid just seems like he just is going to keep ramming a square peg into a round hole with his style, and he doesn't adjust. He doesn't throw in the next wrinkle. And so this is where this part where, you know, we're going to have Luka hedge and then fall back. I don't understand why you can't call a timeout in the game and make this call, make this change. It's really irritating. That's like one of the big brain things that Jason Kidd did was to not leave Luka out one-on-one when he's getting cooked 4, 5, 6 times in a row, right? Like the fact that he needed a whole game to see that and then adjust the following game, again, is kind of proving my point that Kidd is you know, I don't want to say Kidd doesn't know what he's doing, because I would never go that far. He's a Hall of Famer. He's played the game more than me, obviously. He knows more than me, I would think or hope. But it's just one of those things where, you know, do you ever remember, like, once Carlisle got here, Do you ever remember Dirk just getting left out on the wing or down low and just letting a team cook him over and over and over? Like, do you ever remember that kind of happening? There's maybe a few times in the regular season or during a quarter or a game or something, but Carlisle would adjust. He would do something different. He would say, okay, Dirk, here's what we're going to do now. Or maybe we even have to run zone or whatever, right? And so this is what I'm saying, where they're giving Kidd credit for letting the Suns essentially win a game because you're not adjusting to what they're doing. And, then he comes back the next game and he's like, well, we got beat down doing this. I guess I should try something else. I don't really see that as like a big coaching achievement in terms of the way this video is being presented. Just my 2 cents, right? It should have been like a timeout, in the second quarter, or like at halftime, he's saying, okay, we gotta drop Luka back. We gotta hedge. We're not switching, something of that nature. Luka, we're keeping you on, his name's escaping me, the guy with the dreads, but we're keeping you on the guy we're putting you on. We're not switching you onto a quicker guard or something like that. We're not switching onto a Booker or a Paul. You stay on your guy, hedge for a second, delay him, and then we're going to rotate and adjust as a defense. Like, that's an in-game adjustment that you should be able to make.
This hedging technique, where Luka contains the ball until the original defender recovers, prevented any switch hunting and...
Do you understand? Like, I don't understand why this wasn't made in-game. I think it was game 2 that that happened. Why this wasn't made in-game.
Took away advantages for the Suns. The defense is completely reset here.
And again, Luka is still having to guard.
And took away advantages for the Suns.
I forget 25's name. I apologize. But he's still having to guard a quicker guy, right? So, if I'm the Sun, they just don't want him to guard Paul or Booker is essentially what it comes down to. But if I was the Suns, I would still let him go after Luka. If they're feeling it and cooking Luka like that as they were last series, really it was just the fact that Luka cannot guard Chris Paul and Booker. And what is the other thing that I said, the one thing I keep saying about why Bullock and Finney-Smith are so valuable to this team, and as an offensive player, and now that I watched this video, I sort of realized I was kind of right, and this is a good video to prove that. Having Bullock and Finney-Smith switch on pick and rolls against a guard-heavy league is so invaluable. I cannot stress it enough that these two guys, look at this. If you're Booker and Paul, in terms of our team, right, can you think of any better asset on the defensive end than having these two guys being able to switch on a Paul Booker combo? And Paul was having a decent series, right? It's not like, I know Paul gets blamed for not ever winning anything, but Paul and Booker were having a decent series. These two guys switching on the outside on something like that is priceless. It is priceless. And so, that's not really something Kidd is coaching, right? That's just basic pick and roll defense, switching on the man and things of that nature. So, while yes, you could say this is an adjustment that Kidd made, I don't think this is something where it's like, did Kidd win us a series because of this, or win us a game or two? I guess you could make that argument, but I think you're giving him a little too much credit, in my opinion.
The defense is completely reset here. This is another pick and roll from game 3, where Luka hedges, recovers to Jay Crowder.
I'm sorry I couldn't remember his name. Yeah, so Luka, when you're on the floor, if Jay Crowder's in, you're staying on Crowder no matter what.
And Dallas will live with Crowder's step backs all day.
And remember, Crowder still cooked Luka a little bit every once in a while, so it's not as if, that's not necessarily a Kidd's fault either. But, again, I just don't see this as wow, Kidd really adjusted there. It's like, well, he should have adjusted, in game 2,
The Mavs were so in sync defensively that they could hedge with Luka and then switch behind the play.
That's hands by Bullock. And so this part, again, this is maybe a little something I'll give credit for in terms of this kind of rotation, which is a little more complex. I'll give him that. But essentially, they're doing what I said in terms of, Luka, this is the man you're guarding. This is who we want you to guard. This is who we want you to stay on. Everyone else as a team needs to be aware and rotate and switch in terms of no one needs to be guarding this player. If Luka gets pulled out on a pick, if Luka does have to switch, maybe off ball or something, Luka is always going to come back to this guy, or he's always going to come back to Jay Crowder, something like that. And everyone needs to be aware of what's going on when that happens. I will give maybe Kidd a little bit of credit for that in terms of being able to demonstrate and relay this understanding of switching and rotating. But again, this should have been done in game 2 at halftime, or even during a timeout in the first half.
And this is all coordinated once the screener floats really far away, and instead of sprinting to recover, Doncic just bumps.
Again, that only works too because Bullock gets a hand and delays Booker, right? Again, Bullock is the one buying us time here. Bullock is the one providing the good D. Again, if Bullock doesn't get a hand on that pass, he's wide open for a 3, right? Because of what Kidd is doing. So that could go either way.
Bumps the backside defender over, and there's no advantage created. And Phoenix falls back on a Mikal Bridges Bismack Biyombo pick and roll, and as expected, that doesn't lead to great offense. So Jason Kidd and the Mavs basically took away the Suns' ability to attack Luka, and he even made some plays in these spots, stripping Devin Booker here, which turns into a fast break chance for Dallas and a Luka layup. Part of this pick and roll defense involved bringing the low man way over early to take.
Again, man on man, sagging. I've talked about this as well. That is even pre-junior high understandings of basketball.
Away the roller, something many.
That's just, I don't get where this guy's coming from with this one. That's just basic man-to-man sagging in the lane, right? I've mentioned before in a video, like, for every pass away that your man is from the ball, you should be one step in towards the lane. That's literally defense 101 with, C-man, C-ball. If the ball is a pass away, you're a step in. If it's 2 passes away, you're 2 steps in. It's really, if we're going to give Jason credit for this, then I need to be an NBA coach.
Elite defenses do, and
I'm kidding, obviously, but,
A minute later against a higher screen, the versatile Maxi Kleba is outside the arc.
I've sung Maxi's praises all the time about how versatile he is.
The low man is already waiting in the paint.
But again, like, what are you trying to say? That Dinwiddie, had Jason Kidd not told him, would be out here all the way on Barnes? Or, God, I'm horrible with names. I'm sorry. But you're telling me Dinwiddie would be all the way out here on 25? If Jason Kidd had not told him, as if Dinwiddie's not smart enough to know that there's no way they're going to make that pass, I should be in the lane to help. I mean, come on, man. Like, I'm not sure where he's coming off trying to give Jason Kidd for that kind of stuff.
And the drive triggers the weak side defender to zone up, so Booker has to bail on the play, and it again fizzles out. We talked about low man is already waiting in the paint, and the drive triggers the weak side defender outside the arc. The low man is already waiting in the paint, and the drive.
Luka should have picked up McGee here. Luka should have stepped right in front of McGee and just and not even let McGee catch anything or have an opportunity. And Dinwiddie and Bullock don't even have to worry about him.
Triggers the weak side defender to zone up, so Booker has to bail on the play.
I honestly don't think that's that great a defense.
In the paint, and the drive triggers the weak side.
Luka should have stepped in front of McGee here. Dinwiddie can trap Booker on the baseline, and that's an even more difficult pass, and then all Bullock is doing is recovering.
Side defender to zone up, so Booker has to bail on the play, and it again fizzles out. We talked about Kleba earlier in the season, and his flexibility as a defensive big was huge, switching out to Booker in space here before staying in front of him and contesting.
Like, that's just good one-on-one defense. I don't understand, like, where Kidd gets credit for that. That's just Maxey playing good one-on-one defense.
Well, and on this one, he drops back, and Booker unwisely challenges him.
Now, why would he be dropping back? Again, you have DeAndre Ayton on. You don't need to be, like, immediately recovering to go get on DeAndre Ayton for what, some kind of 18 or 15-foot pull-up? We'll let him shoot those.
him in heavy traffic, and it's a blocked shot. Here's a pat action the Suns run for Booker, starting in the corner and coming off a screen for a handoff, and he's learned to wait for this third defender to leave the roll man before throwing a lob. Here's the same play in Game 1, with Kleba hedging before recovering, which means that Luka can leave the roller, and again that opens up the pass.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
Now here's the Dallas adjustment in Game 3. Booker comes off the corner, the big doubles him briefly with a blitz, and look at the paint when Booker catches it. There's an extra defender sitting there because these three defenders are momentarily zoning up, and now nothing's open, and Booker forces a lob, and that's the roller, and again that opens up the pass. Now here's the Dallas adjustment in Game 3. Booker comes off the corner, the big doubles him briefly with a blitz, and look at the paint when Booker catches it. There's an extra defender sitting there because these three defenders are momentarily zoning up, and now nothing's open, and Booker forces a lob, and that's a turnover. Up, and now nothing's open.
Was this 25 here? Should have flashed a little higher, I think. That's what I would have done. Again, what have I said about the double? Teams want to double. This is where it's still open again. I'm just pointing that out. But the middle is always open on this double team if you want to come and do it out here, right? So someone should have flashed here. That should have been him, and he would have been open.
And Booker forces a lob, and that's a turnover. The next trip, they run the same play.
That was a horrible pass, by the way, just saying.
Open, and Booker forces a lob, and that's a turn.
Look at where the ball is, right? Like, is that really... I mean, that's better defense, right? But essentially, you're just having Bullock sag in the lane. That's a horrible pass. Look at that thing. It's above the square. It's above the corner of the square by a good, 6 inches.
Turnover. The next trip, they run the same play from the other corner. The low defender slides over, and that leaves the corner 3 open, but the ball pressure stops the pass from getting there, and then everyone can recover, and it turns into a mediocre post-up chance and a foul. DeAndre Ayton actually has a decent post-up game, but
again, a lot of this is sagging off man. On the off-ball, on the farthest defender away, you need to just be sagging.
Ball pressure stops the pass from getting there, and then
and who would that be? That'd be Luka.
Everyone can recover.
It's a simple hedge. The farthest man away needs to be sagging. Let's go back to the other play.
Opens up the pass. Now here's the Dallas adjustment in Game 3. Booker comes off the corner. The big doubles him briefly. Here's the Dallas adjustment in Game 3. Booker comes off the corner.
Chris Paul is becoming the furthest man away here. Bullock is simply going to sag off of Chris Paul, and Brunson is going to pick up these two guys. Again, he kind of mentions how they're playing a zone here. Again, you're taking the furthest man away from the ball, and he's going to sag, and he's going to take away the DeAndre Ayton middle of the lane, the roll. Which, again, that's a good adjustment. I'm not trying to say that's not, but this is not like high IQ, out-of-the-box stuff. I will give Kid a little bit more credit for this one. This is one I saw where I thought it was a little better. Again, you're taking the furthest man away from the ball, and you're going to sag him into the lane. I say sag because one-on-one, man-to-man defense, right, is what almost all NBA teams run 90% of the time just about, or more, if not all game. And again, it's if your man is a pass away, you can take a step in. If he's 2 passes away, you can take a step in. So Chris Paul running out here to the corner is essentially saying, you're the furthest man away. You're a good 2 passes away or a long skip pass, right? And we're just going to bring that man into the middle of the lane.
The big doubles him briefly with a...
And again, we're going to hedge, so...
blitz, and...
Essentially that's going to be Powell. He's going to have to hedge. He's going to do the same thing Luka was doing, and so we're hedging the pick and roll with Booker and Chris Paul. Essentially, anytime they're going to be getting the ball, we're going to hedge them. We're going to hesitate them for a second. whoever is the furthest away or whoever's man is in the corner, you're going to sag and be in the lane. And we're kind of zoning up for a quick second, and we're rotating.
Look at the paint when Booker catches it. There's an extra defender sitting there because these three defenders are momentarily zoning up, and now nothing's open, and Booker forces a lob, and that's a turnover.
You know, and had Booker made a better pass, I mean, he still might have caught this. DeAndre Ayton is capable of getting that. Had he made a better pass around the goal, I mean, that still might have been an alley-oop.
Over. The next trip, they run the same play from the other corner. The low defender slides over.
Exactly. Who's the far man in the corner? Brunson.
And that leaves the corner three open, but the ball pressure stops.
And again, it's the same thing with the Mavs I was talking about in the Denver Nuggets game. One of the things that was talked about in the Suns series last year is that they ran Phoenix off the three-point line. It gives you another split second to recover. It gives you another split second to rotate. It keeps away that explosive play, which the Suns are a good three-point shooting team, so it doesn't let them just run away with the game per se. And it makes them put the ball on the floor and do an extra move, right? If you're beat, the least you can do is run your man off the three and make them do something extra, even if you're in a compromised position. It's kind of sometimes picking your battles. The Mavs, one thing they did do good was running the Suns off the three-point line. That's something they did very good. Now, you could kind of look at that two ways. You could kind of look at it at how this guy is saying how, they're essentially letting the corner man, whoever is in the corner or the very off ball, the far side passer, the far side offensive player, sagging that man into the middle of the lane to help is essentially what we're doing. And that means that if that ball did get kicked over here, Brunson's running him off the three. That is essentially what that means.
The pass from getting there, and then everyone can leaves the corner three open, but the ball pressure stops the pass from getting there.
Again, good hands by Powell. This is twice now where we've gotten hands on balls, which I've talked about a lot too with this team, that we get a lot of hands on balls on defense. I love our defense. I've said that tons of times. But again, I don't really see that as like Kidd coaching these guys up, right? That's just having good defenders like Finney-Smith and Bullock, long, lengthy, athletic guys who can move side to side. Same with Powell in a way, and with Maxey, who are sort of long and they get a lot of hands on balls. It's just something that we are good at for last year and so far what I've seen this year. So again, in terms of like this kind of Jason Kidd orchestrating this big-brained defensive adjustment, I just am not quite buying it, in my opinion.
And then everyone can recover, and it turns into a mediocre post-up chance and a foul. DeAndre Ayton actually has a decent post-up game, but his passing isn't good enough to run tons of offense through, and he can't easily attack a defender like Kleba. The Suns love to feed him.
Again, that's just good defense by Kleba. That's not Kidd. Okay, Kleba, here's what you're going to do when you're guarding Ayton. That's just Maxey being a good defender.
Him when he has a mismatch, and here Luka hedges and then recovers to Ayton instead of his own man, and now Phoenix can attack that in the post, and it's a nice lob for a layup. But Dallas generally avoided these passes over the top by fronting the post and making sure a backside defender was there to take away the lob. And
again, the far side defender is simply sagging in the lane. This is room temperature IQ basketball at the grand scheme of things.
Nice lob for a layup. But Dallas generally avoided these passes.
All right, so here's the switch. We got a hedge from Powell. Finney is recovering. Luka and Brunson are guarding the two corner threes.
Over the top.
So they just straight up switched. Powell and Finney-Smith just straight up switched. Again, one of the great things about this team, even with Maxey and a guy like Powell or Green, those five guys can essentially switch on anything, in terms of their man. That is invaluable. That is, in today's game, having, two power forwards, essentially, we're going to call Maxey and Powell, even though they might play a little center for us too, but having two power forwards like Maxey and Powell be able to switch anything with the guys like Green, Finney-Smith, and Bullock is like, man, that's what I'm saying. Like on the defensive end of the ball as a coach, you have lifted so much of a load off of your team, that it's just kind of, I don't know. It's not necessarily that the coach is having to draw anything up, if that makes sense. And so I don't know, like some of this is just having the right kind of defenders. Some of it's some good adjustments by Kidd, I guess you could say. But again, I don't really see this as like some big brain thing Kidd's doing to win us a game.
Fronting the post.
This is what you should be doing. This is like basic defense, in my opinion, I guess is what I'm saying. Now, the whole hiding Luka, you could say that I might give a little more credit to, in terms of running Luka back to a particular defender you want him to stay on. But really what this is just saying, when it comes to Booker and Paul, you need to be hedging and running back to your man, whoever that is. But again, even 25, he's quick enough and athletic enough to take advantage of Luka in some ways. They just didn't do it. If I was Phoenix, I would still go after Luka a little bit with 25, see if you can't get him to pick up a foul or two.
Yeah, but Dallas generally avoided these passes.
So, again, it's just a straight-up switch.
Over the top.
Another switch here between Ayton and Booker. Between, again, Bullock and Finney-Smith, just being able to switch because they can essentially guard the same. Oops.
Fronting the post.
So, again, so far all that was just basic switching. That's all they did was switch. And Bullock is fronting Ayton, which is the right play on Ayton. Ayton is a back-to-the-basket kind of guy. We definitely, I think, fronting him is the right move.
And making sure a backside defender.
Again, this is just basic defense. Like, yes, you're telling me that Luka should be all the way up here on 25? Like, no, he should be sagging in and helping.
Was there to take away the lob.
And 25 should have stayed there because that lob pass might be there.
And Bridges flashes to the elbow here as an outlet. But Luka can just pre-switch this and stay low, and it's a bumbled turnover.
This is just, I don't know.
If Dallas ends up with a guard on that switch and can't deny the entry pass, turnover. If Dallas ends up with a guard on that.
So essentially, Ayton set a pick here for Chris Paul.
That switch and
Powell switched with Bullock.
Can't deny the entry pass. Ayton can be a bit too slow. Dallas ends up with a guard on that switch and can't deny the entry pass.
Again, Luka just providing some help here from the far man.
Ayton can be a bit too slow attacking, which allows help defenders to time up a
good help defense.
Strong double team. In addition to Kleba and Dorian Finney-Smith, the other Mavs defenders needed to hold up on the ball for this scheme to have success. Here's Jalen Brunson sliding over into the paint, but when he recovers, he can't let Bridges slash by him, and he does great work moving his feet here, and it's a dead-end drive.
It's just good defense. Like, there's just good one-on-one defense, and
this whole
I don't get the whole talking
Here's Jalen
point
Brunson sliding over into the
of maybe I'm losing my mind, and the guy breaking this video down is, thinks this is some big brain part of basketball that most people don't know about, but man-to-man defense, like, what is the point of being up on this guy over here, right? I don't understand why it's like, look at Brunson shading into the middle of the lane. It's like, well, yeah, no crap. Like, I don't understand what you think he should be doing.
Paint, but when he recovers...
Sorry, I'm getting a little frustrated. It's just sometimes, I don't know, I guess just hearing people talk basketball sometimes, like, especially like commentators and whatnot, man, it kind of just it really grinds my gears, that kind of stuff. And so, again, acting as if these are the adjustments Kidd made that we weren't already doing, then this only goes further to prove my point that Kidd is not a good X's and O's coach on the offensive, or perhaps now I'm thinking even the defensive end.
Covers, he can't let Bridges slash by.
So good, just straight up man-to-man defense there.
By him, and he does great.
And then, again, remember what I said, if you're a pass away, you're a step in. If you're 2 passes away, you're 2 steps in, etc., etc.
Sliding over into the paint, but when he recovers...
So look, ball's further away. Ball gets further away. Brunson this is how it should be. This is how it should be. When the ball is on either end, right? When the ball is on two different sides of the court, you are supposed to be in the middle of the lane. You are supposed to be underneath the basket almost. Now, why I say underneath the basket is you should see ball, see man. So technically, if he took a step back or two, he could see both. He could see both out of his peripherals, right? But Brunson knows where his man is. He could get burned here a little bit if he loses 25. But again, the way spacing works these days in the NBA, there's not a lot of off-ball motion and whatnot. So he knows where 25 is. Again, when the ball is on the other side of the floor, NBA guys are good enough athletes that once that pass goes over, they're either right there when the guy catches it or they might even get a hand on it. And so this is just basic man-to-man sagging defense. This is really all this is.
Let Bridges slash by.
Ball is swung. Ball is swung. So now you step over to your man 2 steps.
Him, and he does.
Ball comes to your man. Look, he's there. It's not. This is nothing. This is nothing.
Great work moving his feet here, and it's a dead end.
Great defense by Brunson.
Drive. Same thing in screening action, where his job is to contain Booker, and then he holds his ground.
Just a good switch.
And actually draws an offensive foul.
That's just so when you switch on defense and you play sagging man, kid's a genius. I guess, man.
Here's that pet handoff action for Booker, and Dwight Powell hedges onto him quickly before night. Here's that pet handoff.
Who's going to be the off man here?
Off action for Booker, and Dwight Powell hedges onto him.
See where Brunson is, right?
Quickly before.
So Brunson now is the man having to recover on Ayton or give help, which is fine, right? Look at his man's all the way in the corner.
Nicely recovering.
That's just basic shit. And that's a tough pass. He doesn't catch it cleanly.
And then Brunson.
And again, Powell's able to recover. That's
again
just
puts in work against a weak ball handler, and that is a turnover. And Reggie.
I need to be in the NBA, bro. Someone needs to get me on their front office organization or the bench. I need to be an assistant somewhere. I need to be breaking down film. I need to be handing over just pages of notes on games.
Bullock really cranked up the pressure on Chris Paul.
Again, just good man-to-man defense by Bullock.
Paul, after the series came back to Texas, throwing him off his normal rhythm throughout the game. It's unclear how much Paul was injured or simply fatigued at 37.
I'm not sure what happened on that. They called a foul on Paul?
Pressure on Chris Paul.
I guess maybe he kind of leaned his shoulder into him or something.
Throwing him off his normal rhythm.
Yeah, it looks like I forgot about that play, but he's kind of out of position trying to get a little extra room there on Finney Smith as he comes around the pick.
Throughout the game. It's unclear how much Paul was injured or...
Man, having Bullock and Finney Smith, man, that's what I'm saying. Like, if they can just hit a couple threes, like, those guys are just to have on your team, I'm telling you.
Or simply fatigued at 37. He said he felt great after game 2, but Bullock...
Just a bad play by Paul there. That just would have been a simple switch by Finney Smith and Bullock again.
Didn't make it easy for him to get into anything, and then chased him down with high hands in the passing lane, leading to turnovers. His screen navigation in this series was fantastic, and again, that length bothered Paul's passing windows repeatedly. Here's more.
Telling you, Bullock was the unsung hero of the playoffs last year.
Handoff action for Booker, where Bullock is the low man pulled into the paint.
I get maybe my terminology is just different. Again, it's just man-to-man sagging defense, right? It's just being a pass away, you're a step in. I hope people understand what I'm saying, and I've talked about this on like the film rooms before, so this is nothing new that I've said, but this is just basic man-to-man defense,
Paint.
This is Coach K style Duke defense here, like in terms of some of the back in my day. That's who like we all watched as like the pinnacle of running this kind of defense.
He recovers to the corner, and again that length bothered Paul's passing windows repeatedly. Here's more handoff action for Booker.
Again, it's just the far side man is going to sag in.
Where Bullock is the low man pulled into the paint. Then he recovers to the
That's also a good job there.
handoff action for
you probably another good adjustment Kid made here is that telling that whenever Ayton goes to the hole, people need to get some bodies on him and slow him down a little bit. You can see Luka do it here.
Where
Luka's going to just kind of, it's almost like when a wide receiver is running, if you can just kind of bump him a little bit and get his timing off with the quarterback kind of thing, all that little stuff kind of adds up and can make a difference.
Bullock is the low man pulled into the
So again, just basic sagging off the defense. Your man's all the way out here. Bullock can easily recover on that.
paint. Then he recovers.
So he takes that lob away from Ayton. Luka gives him a little shoulder bump, slows him down even a little more, gets in his way just enough. Doesn't have to be much. And now Bullock can run out to the pass.
To the corner perfectly against Paul, and after some switches,
so now we're gonna have another pick here by Crowder.
he sees a pick and roll coming, and
So another pick. That's a nice little double pick there by the Suns. I kind of like that.
immediately pulls over to the roller and forces yet another turnover.
That's a nice play by Paul, though. And I kind of like this, even though that seemed like a bit of a broken play. That's a nice little double pick there.
He sees a
Very
pick
tight quarters, though.
and roll coming.
Again, just sagging man-to-man defense, right? Like, to think that as good as Paul is, and even if he comes off this pick and makes the pass over to Crowder here in the corner, again, Bullock's good enough to recover.
And immediately pulls over to the roller.
And so this is really Luka would be the one recovering here to Crowder.
And forces yet another turnover. Paul had 7 in that game. On that last play, Booker skipped it to the corner, but Dallas overloading.
I guess overload, to me, overload sort of signifies that I don't think there's much overloading in basketball. Basketball is not really like football where you're kind of like on one side of the field or not, or you're playing to the strong side or the weak side in terms of where the tight end is, or maybe how the backfield is lined up. Again, basketball is such an open game. You're kind of more playing the players on the floor, and you're kind of guarding an overall centered space, right? So, again, I don't like the term overload. He's trying to make it sound fancier than what it is, in my opinion. It's just a simple sagging in off of your man because your man is on the other side of the court. So, like, to me, an overload signifies as if the Mavs are trying to, like, play one side of the court or something in a way. I don't quite like that term. It's just it's just a sagging man. It's just a help defense on man-to-man defense.
To the ball like this works so well.
He can't be 3 seconds, so he's kind of jump out and jump back in.
Precisely because Booker rarely makes that.
And the reason why people rarely make that skip pass is because on a floor of NBA athletes on the half court, that's a hard pass to make. You kind of need more of like a direct line to throw it. You can't really lob it up and over. Someone's going to pick it off most of the time. And so as a defense, right, you should play to that strength. And even if he does lob it and get it over here to 25, again, NBA athletes, even someone like Brunson, or I guess you would consider is not a quote-unquote athlete compared to your average NBA player, right? He can still recover and get over there and run him off the three, right, and give us another second to recover.
Skip pass to an open teammate, instead settling for contested jumpers. It's the same thing in pick and roll, where Brunson slides over early, so the far corner.
Maybe the terminology is making me upset. Like sliding over early. It's not sliding over early. It's jumpers. Where the ball is
it's
compared
the same
to your
pick
man.
And roll,
see, like
where Brunson's instead settling for contested jumpers. It's the same thing in pick and roll.
So here, right, Brunson has to kind of be a little closer on his man because Booker could come down and he could come this way. He could go to his right.
Where Brunson,
as soon as he goes over here, this man in the corner becomes less much of a threat. And so therefore Brunson can sag.
Slides over early, so the far.
And again, the pick and roll Let's go back to the pick and roll.
jumpers. It's the same thing in pick and roll, where
Maxey is guarding. I think that's McGee.
Brunson slides
So he hedges for a second.
over early, so the far
We recover.
corner is the
Maxey's now picking back up McGee. Again, this is a hard pass to make all the way over to 14.
weak spot, but Book hits a dead-end roller, and that's an inefficient shot.
That's just basic pick and roll man-to-man sagging defense.
Compare that to one of the few times in the series dead-end roller, and that's an inefficient shot. Compare that to one of the few times in
I mean, technically getting a 10-foot little baby jump hook or whatever that was from McGee, I mean, that's not a horrible look. You'd maybe rather have Ayton shooting that than McGee, but
the series. He found that corner skip pass, and it's a wide open.
now why is that, though? If you can see here,
Compare that to one of the few times.
Maxey, so Dinwiddie is following Booker a little too closely out here, because technically Brunson did right. He should be here.
In the series,
Dinwiddie needs to be like right here, right? He is way too. I think that's. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Johnson, maybe 25. This is Dinwiddie's fault, not Brunson's. Brunson's doing the right thing. He's this was the guy who was rolling, so he's helping for just a split second. Bertans is also sagging a little bit. He's going to be on, I guess that's McGee. I'm not sure.
he found that corner.
So Dinwiddie needs to be here. Bertans needs to be like kind of right here. Bertans is getting sucked in way too much.
Skip pass, and it's a
That's on Bertans. That's not because of bad defense per se by the team or by
shot.
Brunson.
Compare that to one of the few times in the
Bertans loses his man. He's guarding him right here. So Brunson Bertans is doing his job for a split second. He needs to shade this roller. Brunson is doing his job. He needs to be in the center of the lane because his man's all the way over here.
series.
So he's kind of taking this away. Bertans loses his man, and he's sucked way too far in the lane for just a split second too long.
Found that corner skip pass, and it's a wide open look for a good shooter. Stifling Booker's favorite plays were compounded by his weaker playmaking chops. Here's a triple switch where
I saw this video when he said triple switch. I just was like, I can't take this anymore. I'm just kidding. But a triple switch? You mean just a switch? It's just switching.
Booker's favorite plays were compounded by his weaker playmaking chops. Here's a triple switch where Luka.
Again, yeah, this is not hard. Okay, so Finney Smith this is not like anything Kid did, right? This is not, I don't understand why you would have to tell your team how to triple switch. It's just switching on a double pick and roll in a way. So Finney Smith picks up here the first pick, right, for Booker. Booker's going to keep running all the way out. Ayton's going to roll. Luka is already sagging off this pick, right?
His favorite plays were compounded by
Luka's on 25.
his weaker playmaking.
Again, part of defense on pick and roll is you give space for your man to go through whichever way he decides to go. So you, as the guy guarding the guy who's setting the pick, you always leave space for your teammate to run in between. So therefore, Luka's going to give space to Finney Smith to run in between that pick and roll. He's giving him space to operate. That's just, again, defense 101.
Chops.
See, he gives him space.
Here's a triple
So Luka's already sagging. He's just going to kind of hang out here, right? This is still his man.
switch where
Now Finney Smith, essentially right here, it sounds like he says pick up Booker. So that's now Maxey's man coming around. Luka's already in the lane. Who do you think's going to pick up Ayton, Finney Smith or Luka?
Luka stays home to take a roller.
And this is why Maxey is also another invaluable defender. The fact that, I'm not saying he can guard Booker on the wing, but he can do an okay enough job to buy some time or to at least make Booker shoot some kind of fadeaway or some kind of a more difficult shot, considering Maxey's a power forward, right? in kind of name only. He's more of like a shooting small forward kind of, but he's a power forward for us. So, the fact that he can defend as well as he is for the position he plays on someone like Booker, again, this makes your defense even better.
No openings, Booker tries to take Maxey on himself.
How Booker does not make that pass.
And he has Ayton wide open, but misses him, and it's one of...
See, is that really good defense? Because theoretically, we should have got burned right there. Booker should have made an easy, just little bounce pass to his left, and Ayton's wide open for a dunk. And, you hesitate in the lane for a second around guys who are 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", like Luka and Maxey. Yeah, they're going to strip you or get a hand on the ball.
24 Devin turnovers over the last 5 games of the series.
That's just, Booker helped us out a lot there. That's not, maybe he just wanted to say triple switch to make himself sound smart. But again, this is
openings, Booker chops, good shooter.
This is, again, defense
Stifling
101.
Booker's favorite plays were compounded.
Just so everyone knows, whenever you're defending the guy setting the pick, you always give space. You always give space for your teammate to operate through. If Finney-Smith wants to come underneath, he's got room. If Finney-Smith wants to go over the top, then that doesn't really affect you at all in terms of Luka, but you're giving him the option.
Playmaking chops. Here's a triple
switch.
Triple switch where Luka
can't take someone seriously who says
stays home to take the roller, and with no openings, Booker tries to take Maxey on himself, and he has...
That should have been a dunk, that's not necessarily great defense. And what should have happened here again, maybe we should say what is the right defense.
Plays were compounded by his weaker playmaking chops. Here's a triple switch where Luka stays home to take the roller, and with no...
So first of all, Bullock does beat him off the dribble, right? Like I said, Maxey on the wing on a guard is not exactly the matchup we want, but it's okay, in terms of, if we get stuck in that kind of position.
Openings, Booker tries to take Maxey on.
So he beats him off the dribble here, right? Dinwiddie is the guy, again, his man is all the way in the corner. That's the hardest pass. And I think that's Frank. I'm sorry if I got it wrong. He needs to be sagged in here as well, too. Now, I'd rather him stay out here a little bit more because of Chris Paul being the immediate pass, and that's an easy fallback for him to get Crowder. Dinwiddie kind of at this point needs to be not necessarily on Ayton, but he needs to be in the middle of the lane getting ready for that pass because Luka is going to have to step up. It's going to have to be him. Finney-Smith is not going to get there. Dinwiddie is now the off man that needs to be all the way on Ayton. I'd rather take away the dunk from Ayton and give up the 3 to Crowder.
On himself.
So, again, why Dinwiddie is flinching so hard to run out to Crowder right here, this is Dinwiddie. I'm not saying Dinwiddie did anything wrong here in terms of, it's not his fault. Maxey kind of got beat off the dribble and Luka has to help. Dinwiddie needs to be right here. That's the play he should have taken away, and we'll leave 21 to take Crowder or Paul. We'll let him decide when that if and when that pass goes out. It's his job to rush the pass or the shooter and run him off the line, or make him make another pass, which again buys us another second or two. Frank, I knew that was Frank. I'm sorry, I should have known that. I was having a total brain fart. Yeah, so we leave it to Frank here to pick up Paul or Crowder if Booker is even able to make that pass. Dinwiddie needs to be in the middle of the lane. He's got to know his team's beat right now, and he needs to be on Ayton.
And he has Ayton wide open, but misses him, and it's one of...
And Booker should have made that pass off the dribble, but instead he picked it up, was kind of hoping to freeze the defense for a second, I guess, and then dish it. He should have just right there off the dribble, just passed it right to Ayton. 24
Devin turnovers over the last 5 games of the series. Paul struggled with these skip passes too.
Again, having Finney-Smith hound Chris Paul, you can't ask for a better sort of matchup.
7 Finney-Smith chases him here, and the corner is wide open, but per usual, Brunson is already standing in the paint, and Chris...
Again, exactly. I mean, this is basic man-to-man defense again. Here Brunson is. This is your job, your responsibility. You leave Crowder in the 3 again as a Mav, right? If you're the Mavericks. If Crowder's going to get hot from 3 and beat us, that is easier to live with than just giving dunks to Ayton just rolling all day, or letting Paul and Booker get layups.
Leads Ayton right.
So this is just good defense, and this is where Bullock, you're kind of putting Bullock in a tough spot here, and he's going to have to recover if this pass comes out. But again, the pass will go either to Booker or Crowder if Ayton, let's say, I think Ayton gets a charge here if I remember the video right. Bullock's just going to have to run out to Crowder, and that's kind of what you have to live with. And if Bullock gets out there and Crowder has to make another pass to Booker, that gives us one more pass to recover as a defense.
Into a charge. Since the Suns didn't seem to make any adjustments to counter Dallas's defense,
they're essentially playing a sagging man-to-man defense, right? And with someone like Luka, right? So okay, you tried to attack. This is how I would attack the Mavs. If I had someone like matchups, right? Basketball's all about matchups, especially in the playoffs. I am probably trying to get Brunson and Luka in some kind of 2-on-2 game. That's what I would do. I'm trying to get either Booker or Ayton. I'm trying to get a Booker, Ayton, Paul, 2 out of 3 of those guys to get to play some 2-on-2 ball with Brunson and Luka for 2 reasons. I think that obviously Luka's our worst defender, especially at this time last year, and he is this year, but maybe not so much so. Those are also the 2 least athletic guys. Also, those are our two best offensive guys, and if I can get them in any kind of foul trouble, that will pay dividends later on in the game. So what I would be doing is probably running some off-ball screens and somehow getting Luka and Brunson to switch onto 2 of those 3 guys, whichever one we can get. And then I'm running I'm going to try and clear out one side of the floor, and I'm running a little 2-on-2 game. That's what I would be doing. And again, if you have Ayton running the 2-on-2 game, he rolls and gets the ball. We know there's going to be help there, right? The Mavs are really playing hard to take away the middle of the lane, what I would just call a basic man-to-man defense, but maybe they are overcommitting just a little bit. You have to know that kick out is there in the corner. You almost like a shortstop or second baseman, whenever you ever see them like catch a ground ball that's really hard, and it's just second nature knowing where first base is, right? They're almost already in the air turning, winding up, and they just know where first base is because they've done it so much. And in that situation, if you get Ayton to a roll and they're overcommitting to Ayton in the paint, you just have to know that man in the corner is there. That's just the next play, right? And that he's more than likely going to be open. And if someone does recover, we're trying to maybe make one pass and drive. Ayton's going to hang out in the lane and maybe get another alley-oop or something. That's how I would have attacked this. Again, the Suns here, I think, are trying to do too much in terms of they are sort of passing and swinging the ball a little too much and running around the outside. And if you're playing a sagging man-to-man defense as much as the Mavs are, apparently from what this guy is saying, which I just think is basic man-to-man defense, then while you're kind of making the defense work a little bit, for Dallas, it's really just how quick can we rotate, correct? So I would be trying to get Brunson and Luka in some kind of 2-on-2 ball on a side that's cleared out, something like that. That's how I would have had adjusted and attacked once I saw what Dallas was doing. The Suns have a lot of movement to their offense, which I like, but with a lot of movement like that and Dallas playing such an overcommitting, sagging man-to-man like they are in the center of the lane, as I would put it, Dallas really isn't probably working as much as you think they are. And essentially at that point, you should just attack the weakness instead of running your play set is kind of how I would do it.
The die was already cast for Game 7. If anything, the Mavs just became more dialed in to the subtleties of defense.
So look, Crowder here is not a threat. The ball's all the way over here. I'm assuming Finney-Smith is guarding Ayton on this. Maybe there's already been a switch. And Luka is the man. Well, yes, obviously Luka's guarding Crowder, right, as we've seen before. So Luka is essentially the man sagging in and fronting Ayton, and that's all he's doing. Finney-Smith is just coming over here to help on the drive from, I'm assuming, Booker, who's obviously their best offensive player, right? So he's coming over to help. It's really it. That's just basic man-to-man defense.
Defending these same actions. again and again.
So this is a good example what I would have done if I'm attacking the Mavs this series.
The die was already cast for Game 7. If anything, the Mavs just became...
Again, they want to sag that much. You kind of have to get away from the middle of the lane for a little bit. I'm going to bring Ayton over here for a pick. And I'm going to run a pick and roll on the side of the floor, not the middle of the floor. Again, the side of the floor, you're at least making the defense come to you a little bit. And you're going to have to hope, obviously, that Crowder and 25 or Paul hit some threes. Because obviously if people overcommit, you have to make them pay. And more than likely, you're going to have to do that with threes. Why Ayton is just standing here and letting him go one-on-one, I don't understand. I would bring Ayton over here, and I'd be trying to play some two-on-two ball with Luka and whoever. Again, I would like to somehow run some picks off ball to try and get Brunson on Ayton or something. So maybe I'd have 25 come set a pick on Luka and see what Brunson does. And if Brunson... It's like, let's say 25 comes here and sets a pick in front of Luka here, and Ayton flashes high post, and Brunson has to switch and come with him. There's your opportunity to play some two-on-two ball with Brunson being one of the defenders. And again, whether Booker or Ayton gets Brunson on him, that's as a Sun, you take that. That's a decent mismatch.
More dialed in to the subtleties of defending these same actions again and again.
This is good D by Bullock right there.
Again. Luka's ready to slide over on this little pick and roll, but he doesn't over...
Again, he's just the far man. Here comes the ball this way. It's just... This is not big brain stuff. This is just helping out sagging man-to-man defense. And why would anyone expect the off-ball defender to be all the way up on their man over here? That's just silly. You know, that's not really an adjustment. This is just defense 101.
Commit because Paul picks it up so early, so this skip pass doesn't create any advantage.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Okay, so here comes Paul, right? Luka's he's not necessarily on. I think that's Crowder. I can't quite tell. But Luka is essentially on Crowder. If Chris Paul were to change his mind, excuse me, if Luka were to change his mind, or if Paul were to change his mind and go left all of a sudden, Luka's right there. As Paul begins to come around, he sags a little more.
Commit because Paul...
And again, I guess by now, right, the Suns have picked up on what they're doing. If this wasn't Luka and this was any kind of athletic guard, they would have picked this off.
Paul picks it up so early, so this skip pass...
Again, you can't really hit Ayton because Luka's going to step in, right?
Doesn't create...
As Luka took that step in, you saw him. And again, I said the Mavs ran the Suns off the three-point line a lot, and it's because they're playing a sort of overcommitted, sagging defense.
The advantage... And the foul hunting doesn't work.
Good D by Luka.
On Booker's handoffs, Dallas never has to worry about... The foul hunting doesn't work. On Booker's handoffs, Dallas never has to worry about this wing.
Again, Brunson being the off man, he is the one going to be slowing down Ayton. Now, you might say, wow, Brunson slowing down Ayton. It's just enough to let Powell recover.
Man, so Luka can sit right on the corner pass, and he's seen this by now.
Exactly. We're talking about NBA athletes, who are 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", 6'6" on the low end almost. There's almost no one below 6'6" anymore on the floor, really, except for maybe your point guard, and that's it. Again, he's here. Ayton's not there. Finney-Smith is here. Bullock's chasing Booker. Dwight Powell is again sort of hedging, and he's going to fall back.
And so Luka can sit right on the corner.
Again, you see he starts to fall back. Luka knows that Brunson is sagging here, so he's trying to cut off this lane while also knowing Crowder's open. The pass here is probably to Crowder. It should have been a Crowder a quick swing. I would have this man take the ball off, put the ball on the floor and dribble, and Ayton might be rolling here.
Pass, and he's seen this
That's good hands by Luka.
By now. One counter by Booker was to just pass the ball instantly off the double. But again, no one is open here because they know Paul.
Yeah, again, you got Finney-Smith sagging. He's gonna slow down Ayton. Again, the ball being in the middle of the floor, you see Finney-Smith and Luka are about even on their sagging. This would be considered two passes away, just 2 passes away by space of basketball and how people usually line up, right? So again, that's 2 steps right there. That's 2 steps and he's on 25. That's 2 steps and he's on Paul. And so you see that's just even basic defense, right? In terms of even being on either side of the floor where their man is. And Brunson is 1 pass away from Crowder.
And that's just a
So all it is once he's there, you're there.
sloppy pass. As
Finney-Smith being the off man gets to sag a little more.
But again,
The ball goes away. Finney can commit a little more.
no one is open here.
And once this ball gets
Because they
kicked
know
over,
Paul isn't a threat.
again, we're talking NBA athletes.
And that's just a sloppy pass as
I don't know if that's a sloppy or maybe it's a bad pass. I can't remember.
the Mavs recover.
Exactly. So you see, this is just I don't really like how this is considered to be kid, like making some big brain adjustments or winning us a game or two, right? I don't like that this is the standard that we hold him to.
This time Booker finally hit.
So Brunson here is going to be the off man. Looks like they're about to do some kind of pick here.
Hit the open wing.
They do. So right now that means, is this Finney? Yeah, I think that's Finney. Brunson's about where he needs to be. Finney needs to start sagging to the middle of the lane.
But the pass was a
Let me see what happens on ball. I missed that.
pass as the Mavs recover. This time Booker finally hit the open
Little double pick here. So you got
wing, but the pass was a mess and led nowhere.
Bullock chasing over the top.
This time Booker finally hit the open wing.
Dinwiddie's here sagging off of, again, it's just like Luka sagged off of Ayton there whenever they did the triple switch. Dinwiddie's going to give his teammate room to run in between the pick if he wants, however he wants to do it, and he's going to sag.
But the pass.
So it's just basic. He's going to pick up, I don't know who that was. He's going to pick this man up rolling. Bullock is still chasing Booker. Maxey is hedging, as he says, shading, as I like to call it.
Pass was a mess and led no.
Again, had that been a good pass, and you see Finney here, as I said, Finney's the off man. He's going to be coming into the middle.
Cover. This time Booker finally hit the open wing, but the pass.
Finney, right? Good job by Finney. I mean, even though I'm not sure he gets involved in the play.
Pass was a mess.
Just basic man-to-man sagging defense. He can come all the way over here. Let them make this pass all the way to Paul.
And led nowhere.
And then again, Maxey's recovering, right? Maxey hedged and recovered. And now Finney-Smith has done his job.
And then he walked right back into a cover.
Finney can still hang out here. Now, this is the tricky part, and this is also another way I would attack the Mavs off the dribble is, again, if Booker or Paul can get a decent switch and put the ball on the floor and get past somebody, usually that sagging man is so committed that kick out is usually wide open, which it would be here.
Mid-ranger against Bullock and led nowhere. And then he walked right back into a covered mid-range.
So again, this is probably the pass to make here.
Against Bullock. By this point, the Mavs were accustomed to.
So we got Maxey on Ayton. Again, Bullock being the far man off here is just going to sag and cause problems and help out. I mean, it's a helping sagging man-to-man. I mean, that's what I've always heard it referred to and called, so I don't know maybe if other people have different experiences with it being called something else. It's just a helping in man-to-man, and you're sagging one pass away. For every pass away, you're a step away from your man.
Leaving Paul. They overload to Booker here. And CP3.
This is also a good, again.
At this point, the Mavs were.
Brunson is guarding Crowder up here, right?
Accustomed to leave.
Again, see ball, see man.
Paul. They overload to Booker here. And CP3.
So this is this is a good play here. I like this one much more than the others.
The Mavs were accustomed.
Again, this backdoor cut, I talk about how the Mavs don't move enough off ball, and while the Mavs do a good job rotating and communicating here,
to leaving Paul.
Theoretically, right? Like maybe if you're the Suns and you pay attention to this,
They
I would have had Ayton stay right here and have him cut back door.
overload to Booker here.
And had Ayton maybe stayed up here, Crowder would have been wide open on a backdoor cut. Again, this is good pickup and switching defense, right?
And CP3.
Now, Booker should have waited a second, and this would have been the pass I would have made personally, because it's going to make Dallas suck in on Crowder, or the defense respect that. Crowder could have possibly caught it right here for a little 12-footer or whatever, or maybe even if Ayton comes to the basket, there's a little dump down for him there if Maxey has to pick up Crowder. Or you get a little post up for Ayton with Bullock on him, which, is a huge mismatch. Ayton versus anyone underneath the goal is a big mismatch, right?
Simply what?
And so this is good switching here by the Mavericks. Brunson called out Crowder, cutting to the goal and cutting to the corner, baseline to the corner, even though no one picked him up, right? And that's Booker's fault. Booker should have passed it to Crowder, if for nothing more than to make the Mavs defense suck in on Crowder a little bit. But he didn't do that, so it gives a chance for Brunson, although Crowder cut back door on him. Brunson's able to simply just pick up Paul. Finney can stay here, and now Luka's back on Crowder, which is a favorable matchup for us.
Wasn't a weapon off the ball in the.
So now we're just back to a man-to-man. This is a little bit of a tougher situation when they don't necessarily have anyone in the corner. If Maxey's going to have to be the man to sag and help off of Ayton, that's not preferable.
His series, Brunson slides.
So he doesn't even help. So he's just going to stay on Ayton. So that makes sense.
To Booker here.
Do you see what I'm saying here? Booker, I don't know what he's looking at or what he's seeing. But the correct pass here was to Crowder, if for nothing more than to make the defense collapse.
And CP3.
This should have been the pass. This is a mistake by Booker, which I'm not surprised. I don't think Booker's I think he's a great player. His basketball IQ I question a little bit sometimes. I think he's too much feel and just going off of athleticism, and he's got a good shot kind of thing, and he can almost get his shot off anytime he wants. But I've seen him do some questionable things sometimes, but that's just my opinion.
Simply was.
So again, I would have passed here, and how Mavs react to that would have been a little interesting. Depending on what happens, so I don't know. But that was the wrong pass here. Passing it here allows, essentially we didn't have to do anything. That's why it was a bad pass.
Mavs were accustomed to leaving Paul.
You pass it to Crowder if for nothing more than to make the defense collapse and suck in.
They overload to Booker here.
See how no one really, we're kind of, even though we're moving, no one's really moving. And by kicking it out here, we don't have to do anything. You've taken now this double team here, and if Maxey's going to have to respect Ayton, which he does, kicking it out here, again, Brunson's just one pass away, one step away. Paul's pretty out there, so 2 steps away, but he can still get there in time. This would have been the pass. This would have been a pass to make right here.
B3 simply wasn't a weapon off the ball.
And the fact that he cut, I'm assuming that was supposed to be the play.
Ball in this series. Brunson slides.
So now Bullock needs to be the guy who's sagging in the middle of the lane.
Over to help without a worry. Booker again doesn't make the skip pass. And by the time it gets back to him, the shot clock is low. And have I mentioned how good Maxi Kleber is? When it gets back to him, the shot clock is low.
Luke is just going to hedge. Brunson's going to chase. Bullock needs to be here. Bullock needs to be all the way in here right now.
How good Maxi Kleber.
This is great recovery by Maxey. And, again, like I said, Bullock should be here. He's already fronting Ayton. That's a big reason why, too. So he's already there.
But when stars are stifled like this, you end up with possessions where the role players try to create the offense. Dallas loads up to the strong side, again ignoring Paul.
Again, loading up to the strong side. It's just the ball side. Maybe that's what he means by overload. You're overloading towards the ball, I suppose. Maybe that's just what he means. I guess I just don't like the term overload in basketball. I guess to me that just doesn't jive with kind of the game of basketball. Again, his man's all the way out here. He should be in the middle of the lane, sagging and helping. How good Maxi Kleber is. When stars are stifled like this, you end up. So Luka's on
with
Crowder.
possessions where the role players try to create the offense.
This is right. He needs to be sagging here. Basic switch.
Dallas loads up.
I don't see it as loading up, right? Dinwiddie has to guard his man. Powell has to switch and guard 25. Finney-Smith is sagging into the middle of the floor. Which, remember, the rule is if the ball and your man are on total ends of the court like this, you are underneath the goal for the most part. That is quite literally defense 101.
Up to the strong side.
And Luka here is losing sight of Jay Crowder. I don't like that.
Again, ignoring Paul in the
See, he loses him for a second and he finds him.
corner, and the result is yet.
And I wouldn't call it ignoring Paul in the corner.
The offense. Dallas loads.
This is a hard pass to make. Do you understand? Bullock could possibly turn on a dime and get that. Finney-Smith is more than athletic. If he gets a good beat on it or he has a good reaction on it, that's going to be cookies.
Up to the strong side. Again, ignoring Paul in.
So, and again, ignoring Paul isn't the right word. As a defense, right, you know that is a tough pass to make. And even if Paul catches it, he's not going to get a clean shot off. Finney-Smith is going to get out there. He's going to be in front of him. At the very least, Paul will have to put it on the floor or dribble and make a move or something.
In the corner, and the result is yet another low percentage Bridges fadeaway from around the free throw line. Jason Kidd has said that he learned a few defensive tricks in his time under Frank Vogel in Los Angeles. But
something about that rubbed me the wrong way too when I heard it, as if like at your time, not playing in the league and not your stint in Milwaukee or wherever it was first, but it was under Frank Vogel in LA that you picked up on some defensive schemes or things to do. For whatever reason, I didn't like that. I don't like, you know what I mean? It's sort of like, if I was going to learn some things from an NBA coach, it would be like intricate, multifaceted sort of things that would be like, you know, to the average person, like I'm trying to learn quantum mechanics of defensive schemes in basketball. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're saying Kidd learned what a sagging man-to-man help defense is? Like he learned what hedging was? I don't know. That statement didn't sit well with me. I don't know what it is. It just rubbed me the wrong way.
this was a masterclass in slowly shaping a scheme for a
Brunson again needs to be here.
specific Phoenix attack. Look at his attention to detail in this Game 7 mic'd up segment.
Now, come on. Channel 5. Stay home. Stay home, don't stay home. Stay home, don't. Channel 5, baseline. Chop.
And since Phoenix never had an answer
I mean, that sounds good, right? If you see that, you're like, wow, kids like barking out orders on command.
Mic'd up segment. Now, come on. Channel 5.
Hedging, getting back.
Stay home. Stay home, don't stay home. Stay home, don't. Chop, baseline. Chop.
Stay home. He's just telling him to stay on Booker.
Chop.
and since Phoenix never
And
had
Booker the whole time was one pass away, so he should be on Booker.
an answer themselves, the Mavs tightened the screws over the series, culminating in a stunning Game 7 blowout on the road. Yes, Luka did Luka things. The Suns played him to score for most of the series, and he simply kept attacking Phoenix's big men and any mismatches en route to 33 points per game. But the huge turnaround really came on defense. With Luka on the court, they posted a 140 defensive rating in the first two games of the series, while being outscored by 21 points per 100. But over the final 5 games, their defensive rating with Doncic was a sensational 101, a jaw-dropping 39-point decline from those first few games. And in those Luka minutes, the Mavs completely flipped the script, outscoring the Suns by 21 points per 100 in their incredible comeback to advance to the Western Conference Finals.
So, I mean, like, I guess I'll give Kidd, you know, like a little bit of credit for like hiding Luka a little better. But again, that's like adjustment that should have happened at halftime. Second quarter during a timeout, right? Hey, Luka's guarding Jay Crowder anytime he's in. Luka's guarding 25 anytime he's in. Anytime he's involved in a pick and roll, he's going to hedge for a second. He's going to pressure for a second, and the guy getting picked needs to recover as soon as possible. And essentially, Luka's turning and running as fast as he can. Running fast as he can to recover onto his man, right? And so, I don't know, man. Like, this is just, I'm not too, like, over the top impressed with this. I don't think this was Kidd winning us a series or a game or two, like, again, I'm going to say it one more time. A lot of that stuff is basic man-to-man sagging defense. Essentially, we are the guy in the corner away from the ball. You should be sagging off your man and helping, watching Ayton rolling to the goal. Whoever's getting picked needs to recover as soon as possible. I guess I don't want to come off like a know-it-all or something, right? I'm not trying to do that. That's not my goal here. But it's just that was just basic stuff. And if we're going to give Kidd credit for stuff like this, the bar is very low. The bar is very, very low. I was kind of looking back here at the playoff series we had, right? So, again, game 1, that was that game that we got blown out. We were doing horrible on offense, and then even though we only lost by 7, we were down by like 30, 35 at one point. So again, last year, if you can hold the Suns to 120, 115, 110, something like that or lower, that's pretty good. So they scored 121, even as much as we were getting blown out, which I know is not good. You need to get them under 120, preferably for someone like the Suns, under 115, really. The second game, they blew us out by 20 points again, and we scored 114 in game 1. Again, a lot of trash buckets in that game 1. 109 in game 2, which is okay for the Mavericks. We do play a slower offensive style. So 109, depending on how really the game script goes or how the game kind of plays out, 109 is acceptable. Again, we scored 103 in game 3 to their 94. So that's the good defensive adjustments that they're talking about here with hiding Luka and hedging him. We scored 111 in game 4, which is our second highest up to that point. Game 5, we only scored 80 points, 80 to 110. We scored 113 in game 6 and 123 in game 7. And I only bring that up because, again, game 5, we had such a horrible outing. And in game 3 even, we didn't really score a lot of points, nor did we do in game 2. And that's only to say, sometimes hitting your shots helps you a lot, too, on the defensive end. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense, you've heard them say. But I am still just, I'm not impressed with Kidd. I'm being a Kidd hater. I guess I will be, and if Kidd proves me wrong and I see some changes, I will be the first one to eat my words and apologize. But again, with defense, what I just saw in this video is no reason to give Kidd credit, in my opinion, right? We're talking about a basic man-to-man defense, switching, and having the off-ball defender sag for every pass that the ball is away, you take a step in. That is basic defense 101 for anyone who's played basketball in a man-to-man defense. And so I guess I'm just not, I don't know. In terms of giving Kidd credit for this, I wouldn't. This is not something to be proud of with Kidd. This is not something to be like, man, Kidd is really drawing something out of the box to slow down Booker, or Kidd's running a box and one against, as if Kidd's running a boxing one against Booker, or like a 1-3-1 trap, or something like crazy, right? It's just basic man-to-man sagging defense, and having the off-ball defender be in the middle of the lane as he should be, and helping on the pick and roll and slowing things down just enough to let guys rotate, mainly Luka recover. So I will give him credit for the hiding Luka and the hedging part. Again, he should have made that switch at halftime, though, in game 2. This is what I mean. Like, I don't think Kidd is a good coach. I just don't. Everywhere he's gone, he hasn't really. I think he had like 1 or 2 good years in Milwaukee, but other than that, as far as I'm aware, right? So with Brooklyn Nets 2013, 2014, here, I can just put this up on the screen, I suppose. I mean, he's 235 and 220 as a coach. And last year, that was largely the Mavs getting 52 and 30 with a generational talent like Luka. Again, I don't really see why he gets really any credit for that. I mean, again, I think he's maybe a good ego manager. I think maybe he is a good he's a good styles coach, maybe. I don't even really know. I'm just searching for things, if I can be honest. But remember how shitty the East used to be, and he got, his record with the Bucks was never really that good. Essentially 500. I guess he had a decent playoff. Oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at 12 and 5. His playoff record before the Mavs last year is not that good. He's essentially 375 playoff win percentage. Again, if it wasn't for Luka last year backpacking him the whole way, he's a horrible coach. And this year's not looking very good. I think Kidd eventually is just going to get exposed as a coach, as he has in the past. And, I miss Carlisle, man. I just do. I just think Carlisle's a good coach. I don't think we should have got rid of him for Kidd. That's just my opinion. I think a lot of Mavs fans disagree with me on that, but it is what it is with my opinion on that. I think he's a good coach. Again, I've said it before. Maybe he's a little demanding. Maybe he expects you to digest a lot, and you could say that with Carlisle, there was kind of the criticism that he didn't play younger guys, and I think that is because he demands a lot of you to know a lot about what's going on. The offense has many wrinkles and sets to it, and there's a lot of things that his offenses do. And so I think younger players can get lost in that sometimes, which makes sense from his angle. But Kidd's not bringing up Hardy when in a time that we desperately need a point guard. He's not playing Wood enough minutes. He's giving Hardaway Jr. all the minutes in the world compared to other guys. Green's not getting enough minutes. Now I'm kind of just questioning if that was really Carlisle the whole time. I mean, I think it is. I don't think Carlisle. I think you have to prove to Carlisle you know what you're doing, which I think in the end is probably good for your team or organization and performance on the floor. Kidd, I don't know what his thing is. Like, there's not a lot to this Maverick offense to pick up. If you're not the guy setting the pick and roll, then just go stand on the wing and wait for the ball to come to you and drive and kick if the three's not there. I just explained the whole Mavericks offense in 10 seconds, So I don't understand why he's not. If under Jason Kidd, if you produce, you should play, because it's not a question of the playbook. It's not a question of the schemes. So like the fact that Wood and Hardy and Green and some other guys who are producing aren't getting more minutes, I don't know. I don't have an excuse for Kidd on that. With Carlisle, I can understand it or rationalize it a little better, even if I think maybe you should perhaps go ahead and give younger guys minutes if you think they have the talent that will show out in the end, But so I don't know, man. I'm losing faith in Kidd by the day, but we'll see. I want him to prove me wrong, but I think in terms of this video we just broke down, I don't think it's anything to be giving him credit over. I don't understand how people can look at that and be like, yeah, man, like kid definitely won us a game or two there against the Suns. Like he played a basic man-to-man and sagged the off, but he just a sagging man-to-man defense. It's been around since the beginning of time in basketball. I don't know. I think the bar is so low. I think we're reaching for reasons to give kid credit because we feel like here's what I think. I think because Carlisle got beat by the Clippers 2 years in a row in the playoffs, I think people were just ready to move on and try something new. I wasn't. I wanted to keep Carlisle. I'm a Carlisle fanboy, whatever you want to call me on that. I just think he's a good coach. I always will. And, I think the Mavs are going through a maturing process. They had an even worse lineup than we do now, in my opinion. And, I would have liked to have seen Carlisle stick around a year or two. Now, if Luka didn't like Carlisle and wanted to get rid of him, that's a tough choice you got to make, but you got to go with the talent, right? You just kind of have to. So from that standpoint, if that's what happened, I understand in terms of what happened behind the scenes. But, to think anyone who just watches the game and knows basketball, for someone to tell me that kid is a better coach than Carlisle, I can't take you seriously. I just can't. It's really hard for me to understand where you're coming from, especially looking at this, right? And for everyone who wants to say, like, well, Carlisle had Dirk, like a generational talent as well, I'm still seeing more of what Carlisle did with Dirk to get that to work, right? And to set us up for success and good spots and playing to our strengths and using our entire roster and all of our talent that we had. And, I just don't see it with Kid. I don't believe it. Jason Mid, as they say, I think that's a fitting name. I mean, take away last year, right, on Kid's record. What are you looking at? What are you seeing? What did he tell you in the interview? Because I need to know. I need to know what he said in the interview to get this job. So,